Howdy, and welcome back to the Dice Cast. This is the next game in our Winter Rubicon tournament, our single elimination tournament that we have on the channel. And instead of just introducing the game tonight, I actually get to play in it, so I'm pretty excited about that. So I'm going to be playing tonight against Aaron Malone, one of our tournament organizers in the area, organizing tournaments in Madison, Wisconsin, right?
Yep, in Madison.
All right, excited to see your armies on the table. I follow your lists, and what I like is that you've got fairly standard lists, and then you always have a wrinkle on them, always a twist.
That's something that I like to do when I play in any game that I play. Is I always try to put my own twist on things to make it fun and exciting, not only for me but for my opponent.
Absolutely, and no exception tonight. So here's the bracket for the tournament. As you can see, we've got Maggotkin of Nurgle against Sons of Behemat tonight, and so this will be a game to advance into the next round of the tournament. So when the bracket came out, I was really worried about running Maggotkin into Giants. I think it's probably the worst matchup for Giants. But I've got a list that I think will be able to compete fairly well. I've got some pretty heavy damage. Got some a theme of reducing saves permanently, which Nurgle can do a lot of. I can really clamp down on the saves and put through the damage I can, and hopefully to rack up the disease points over the course of the game and get something done against the Giants. But what do you got tonight?
So I brought a special that I've been running for the last couple of months with Sons. As I brought Soulscream Bridge with the Sons of Behemat. I've used it in a couple of events. It's won me a game or two. Just being able to have more board control with the bridge when only having very little models on the board has actually been really helpful, and it's something that my opponents have to think about, even if it's not on the board.
I think there's a really interesting interaction with Soulscream Bridge and one of the new models you're running too.
Yes, now with Kragnos, the End of Empires, being able to have a 3d6 charge built in and can charge outside of 18 means I can teleport Kragnos anywhere on the board effectively, and on average he gets in where I want him to.
Absolutely, it's terrifying. So we're looking forward to having Aaron on the channel for this battle report and for more battle reports on the future. If you can get past my Maggotkin, especially, you'll be into the later rounds of the tournament. And we're also looking forward to the tournaments you're putting together in Madison. You've got one that you're working on right now, right?
Yes, I do. I currently have one on the schedule at Pegasus Games in Madison, but due to another event happening nearby, I'm going to be rescheduling it, hopefully for the end of February. So once I get that finalized, I'll pass off the information to Nick and we'll get that spread around.
Sounds good, and I'll make sure it's in our Discord. If you want to link to the Discord, it's in the notes below. Let's get into the lists.
All right. So I'm bringing Sons of Behemat Taker Tribe today, and I picked Taker Tribe because it has one of the artifacts that I want to take is the Glowy Lantern. So that makes my Kraken-Eater as the general, turns him into a wizard. For the command trait, I took the Master of Magic from the core rulebook, which allows him once per turn to re-roll a cast a spell or unbind, which I think is kind of key if I'm going to be trying to get a Mystic Shield off or get the Bridge off, which casts on a 6, or is spell from the spell lore, I took Levitate, which is casting value 8. And the idea for that is to give Kragnos more of an ability to get over screens with a long charge instead of just running into a screen. I then took a Gatebreaker Mega Gargant with the Arcane Tome and the spell Flaming Weapon. Did that because Flaming Weapon on a Gatebreaker is just really good. Another access to my spells, and the Soulscream Bridge is good. Brought Kragnos today to try his 30 capping on objectives, plus giving my entire army a 3d6 charge outside of 18. And then for the round out the battle line, I brought one Man-Crusher Gargant, and then the star of the show, the Soulscream Bridge. And that is 1975, and I also took the Triumph 4+1 to wound.
So tonight, for my first ever game playing Maggotkin of Nurgle, I have got a double Warlord list, and I've got, for my two commanders in the Warlord, I've got a Great Unclean one and Orghotts. So two heavy-hitting monsters that can take a punch and hopefully stand up to some of the Giants, although Kragnos is going to eat either of them if he gets a chance. For my sub-heroes, or my sub-commanders, I've got Festus the Leech Lord, I've got Gutrot Spume, I've got Spoilpox Scrivener, and then a Lord of Afflictions. The Lord of Afflictions has Overpowering Stench, that bubble of no command abilities, which I'm hoping will come in big. Festus has the Plague Squall spell, so he's got some long-range disease capability. Gutrot is going to be deep striking, of course, with a unit of 5 Blight Kings, and then I've got 2 units of 10 Plague Bearers. For my other lores and artifacts, I've got Witherstave on the Great Unclean One with Fleshy Abundance. I've got the Lord of Afflictions has Rustfang, so I can reduce some saves. And my Spoilpox has the Arcane Tome, so he's a wizard too, and he's got Favored Poxes. So as you can see, looking at those abilities, I've got a handful of things that can reduce saves permanently or until the caster moves in the case of Favored Poxes. So I've got some ways to make the giant saves worse and worse, and then turn off command abilities in on them. And I don't have a lot of damage throughout the list, as most Nurgle lists don't. But hopefully, by reducing those saves, I'll get to punch more through than I normally would. So tonight our battle plan is going to be First Blood, which is a standard scoring battle plan, 3 objectives across the center of the table on the diagonal, and we each start in one corner. The wrinkle on this battle plan is that at the start of each round, the player going second chooses one of the objectives to be the vantage point, and then at the start of the next round, if you control that vantage point, you get 1 extra command point to use during that turn, or that round. And so there's some incentive to go second so that you do have control of that vantage point. None of these 3 objectives are prime, so 1 can be removed at the start of round 3.
So during my deployment, I had to decide where I really kind of wanted to focus. And with the big terrain piece in the middle of my deployment, it kind of forced me to split. So the Gatebreaker is one of the more independent Mega Gargants in the army, so I put him off to one flank. He can kind of wreck anything that he touches. Kragnos is one to me that I think needs to have a little bit more care. So I put the Kraken-Eater and the one Man Crusher over there, also to try to take advantage of a ferocious advance for extra bonus points.
In my deployment, I really focused on making sure that my monsters were going to be relatively safe from a Kragnos charge. So they're behind some screening units, some Plague Bearers, and then Festus. I have the Lord of Afflictions and Gutrot Spume along with 5 Blight Kings into Deep Strike. The Lord of Afflictions can come down anywhere outside of 9, and Gutrot can be wholly within board edge, 6 inches of board edge, and outside of 9. So that gives me some flexibility on where I'm moving, where I'm coming down. But with as slow moving as Nurgle is, I do like a battle plan like this where I can get on a relatively low number of objectives and then try to hold them. But of course, Gargants likes that too, so we'll see how it goes. Good luck, Aaron.
Good luck.
So rolling for my starting position on the Cycle of Corruption, I got a 5, so I'm going to be starting with Nauseous Revulsion. Subtract 1 from charge rolls for enemy units that don't have the Nurgle keyword, and enemy units that do not have the Nurgle keyword cannot finish pile-in move closer to a friendly Nurgle unit than they were at the start of the move. That's going to be in effect for the entire first battle round. Now, Aaron, you finished deployment before me. Who's going first here?
I believe you are going to go first, Nick.
Fair enough. Let's get into it. Nurgle, top of turn 1.
For the vantage point, I will select the center objective.
Sounds good. For my battle tactic, I'm going to go with Ferocious Advance. Hard to believe, right? And that's going to be, I'm going to pick the Great Unclean One, Orghotts, and the Spoilpox Scrivener to attempt Ferocious Advance. For my heroic action, I'm going to try to get an extra command point with the Great Unclean One on a 4-up. And failed to do so.
And then for my heroic action, I'm going to attempt to get a command point on the Kraken-Eater. And I also fail.
For my contagion points here, I get 1 for each Gnarl Maw. I get 3 for having the unit wholly within my territory, and 1 extra because there's no enemies wholly within that territory, so that's going to give me a total of 6. Into spellcasting, the Great Unclean one is going to start things off. He's going to attempt to cast Mystic Shield. And going to get that on an 8.
The Gatebreaker Mega Gargant will attempt to unbind. And does not.
Okay. I'm going to put that Mystic Shield onto the Great Unclean one. Festus is going to attempt to cast Plague Squall. And going to get that on a 12. And so how Plague Squall works is I get to roll 7 dice, and for each 6, I get to pick 1 unit, and that unit gets a disease point. And there's no range on this, it's just visibility. So 7 dice, looking for 6s. And I got 2 6s, so I'm going to put a disease point on your baby Gargant and on the Gatebreaker. The Great Unclean one is then going to attempt to cast Fleshy Abundance, and that's going to go off on a 7.
I will not attempt to unbind it.
Okay, so that's going to be +1 wounds on this unit of Plague Bears. They are now 3 wounds each. For my last cast then, the Spoilpox Scrivener is going to use the Arcane Tome to attempt to cast Metamorphosis. And going to get that on a 5.
The Kraken-Eater is going to attempt to unbind this. On a 5, but because he's a Master of Magic, I get to re-roll the dice.
Sure.
And gets to counter it on a 9.
Okay, so that one is unbound. So he is not a monster for the turn. And with that, for my hero phase, we can then get into movement. During my movement phase, I just had a couple of simple goals. I wanted to get on a couple objectives, take those points, needed to complete my battle tactic, and then I also wanted to use my deep strikes to get some units into the backfield, into Aaron's territory, so that unless he deals with them, they are going to be generating me some extra contagion points. And with as few units as he has, I want to make it unattractive for him to deal with them. I got the Putrid Blight Kings up near his Gatebreaker. I would love to tie that up into combat with a good charge. But otherwise, I just kind of very safely moved on to 2 objectives to try to get some points from them. Into my shooting phase, I don't have anything in range to do any shooting, and so we can get into charges. Just 1 charge to make here. It's going to be the Blight Kings. They need a 9. And they've got it on a 9. Exactly getting in. Like to see it.
You spend a command point, have the Gatebreaker unleash hell on the Putrid Blight Kings.
Okay.
Normally this hits on a 3, but I be -1, so I need to hit on a 4. And it misses.
Okay. At the end of the charge phase, then, you've got a monstrous action.
I do, and the Gatebreaker is going to roar at the Putrid Blight Kings.
Okay.
Need a 3, and I get it.
You got it. No command abilities there, then. I will, going into the combat phase, then, obviously activate the Blight Kings first.
The Gatebreaker will issue all-out defense to itself.
Okay.
Bringing me to 1 command point left.
So the Blight Kings have 25 attacks here, 5 each. These are going to be 3s and 3s, and 6s here are going to do a disease point as well. That is going to be 3 disease points. And then 3 to wound. That is 12 at -1.
Normally I'm on a 4-up. It goes to a 5+ save. I issue all-out defense, so back to a 4. Needing force. Gatebreaker takes 4 damage.
Okay. And he is up to 4 disease points.
Alright, so the Gatebreaker will attack back. First will be its almighty stops. So be hitting on 3s and gets to reroll 1s because the target is not a monster. Both hits. This will be wounding on 3s. Both wound at Rend -2.
Rend -2, we're going to put the Blight Kings to 6s. And they're going to fail both of those.
So D3 each. So 3, 4, 5 damage.
Okay, and then the 5-ups for Disgustingly Resilient. Save 2 of those, going to take 3 so far.
Next will be the Death Grip. This will be hitting on a 3, and that will miss. Then we'll have the Fort Crush of Flail. This will be 10 attacks because I'm at top bracket, hitting on 4s. With only 3 hits, wounding on 3s. Ooh, only 1 At Ren -3.
Ren 3 will go straight through.
It's 3 damage.
Okay. 3 5-ups for Disgustingly. And I'm going to make one of those, another 2 damage. Total of 5 taken so far. So that's going to kill 1 and spill some damage onto the next. At the end of the combat phase then, the disease counters are going to tick up on that Gatebreaker. So you've got 5. Into the Battle Shock phase then, I didn't lose enough Blight Kings there to have to worry about Battle Shock. So we can do our disease points then for the Gatebreaker. I've got 5 dice here. On 4s, they're going to be mortal wounds. That is going to be 2 mortal wounds onto the Gatebreaker. And then on that Baby Gargant, I've got 1 chance at it, and that is going to be 1 mortal wound on him. And then we can get into scoring. I completed my battle tactic, but because you denied Metamorphosis, I didn't get the extra point for that, so that's just going to be 2 points there. And then I do control 2 objectives, so that's hold 1, hold 2, hold more. Total of 5 victory points here. So into the bottom of 1, we each gain a command point from our generals.
So for my battle tactic, I'm going to choose Ferocious Advance, and we'll select the Kraken-Eater, Kragnos, and the Man-Crusher Gargant. And then for my heroic action, I will go for an extra command point on the Gatebreaker, and does not get it.
And I will attempt for an extra command point on my Great Unclean one. And I do.
Okay, so for my first spell cast, the Gatebreaker is going to cast Mystic Shield on himself. Needs a 5. And on 12.
I will let that one go through, I guess.
And then the Kraken-Eater Mega Gargant is going to cast the Soulscream Bridge.
Sure.
Soulscream Bridge has a casting value of 6.
Okay.
I got an 8, and I'm going to keep that with an 8.
I will attempt to unbind that one with the Great Unclean one. No bonuses here, just need a 9 on dice. And I got the 9 on dice, so no Soulscream Bridge this turn. Fortunate.
Okay, going on to the movement phase. I wanted to make sure that I was able to take advantage of Ferocious Advance being an all-monster army. I didn't feel like I needed to go all the way up into his Plague Bearers. So I ran with the Kraken-Eater, Kragnos, and the Man-Crusher, so I can at least get 1 model on the objective and keeping within 3 of each other. Because the Gatebreaker was caught in combat by the Putrid Blight Kings, I wanted him to be able to get on an objective, so I did the cowardly thing and retreated onto the objective in order to take it, and away from the Blight Kings. I cannot shoot this phase because I ran, and the only model I could have charged would be the Man-Crusher because of Kragnos. I will see what I can get with the Man-Crusher. Because the Man-Crusher is wholly within 12 of Kragnos, he can roll 3d6, and because he ran, even though he ran, if he's within 12 of a Mega Gargant, he can also charge. But that 11 is not going to do it. Because I have extra command points, I will attempt to re-roll that for a 10, and that is not going to do it.
Alright, now that we've got the dice camera fixed, sorry about that. No combat phase into Battle Shock?
Into Battle Shock, we have contagion points on the Gatebreaker and the Man-Crusher.
So some disease points. On the Man-Crusher, on a 4-up, got it, 1 mortal wound on him. And then on the Gatebreaker, nope.
On to scoring, I controlled 1 objective, I controlled 2 objectives, and I control more. So it'll be 3 victory points for that. I completed my battle tactic of Ferocious Advance for an extra 2, and because Ferocious Advance was done with 3 monsters, I get an extra point, putting me up to 6.
Alright, and then we're going to have a priority roll for round 2. Before the priority roll, the cycle of corruption does tick up, so it's going on to rampant disease. So I will be, for this next battle round, adding 1 to disease rolls that I make. So they will be doing mortal wounds on 3s instead of 4s. And then our priority roll. I've got a 2 to your 6. It's going to be your choice.
I will go second this battle round.
Okay. Okay.
The vantage point was the objective in the middle, and because I control that, that will give me an extra command point. The vantage point for this battle round will remain the center objective.
Alright, so my battle tactic this turn is going to be Savage Spearhead. I'm going to have 2 units wholly within the starting territory of Aaron to get that. For my heroic action, I'm going to attempt to generate an extra command point with my Lord of Afflictions. And I'm going to fail at that.
For my heroic action, the Gatebreaker is going to attempt heroic recovery.
Sure.
I'm bravery 7, so I need a 7 or less. I got a 7 on the nose.
Okay.
So I will heal for D3. Heals for 3, so I will remove the 1 contagion point that is allocated to the Gatebreaker, and then heal for 2.
Sure.
Putting the Gatebreaker at 4 wounds taken.
Disgustingly resilient means that the 1 wound allocated to my Putrid Blight Kings is going to heal. For my contagion points, I'm going to get 2 for my 2 Feculent Gnarlmaws. I do have a unit wholly within my territory, and Aaron does not have a unit wholly within my territory, so I get 4 for that. And then I get 3 more contagion points for having Gut Rot or the Putrid Blight Kings wholly within Aaron's territory. I don't get the extra 1 there because Kragnos is still within the territory there. So that's going to be a total of 9 contagion points there to go with the 6 that I had earlier. Total of 15 at this point. For my spellcasting here, I'm going to begin with Mystic Shield from the Great Unclean one. And that is going to fail on a 4. Then going to attempt Fleshy Abundance from the Great Unclean one. And that one's going off on a 9.
The Kraken-Eater will attempt to unbind.
Okay.
I need a 10.
And you got
I got a 12.
Yeah, no Fleshy Abundance this turn. I'm then going to attempt to cast Plague Squall with Festus. And that is going to fail on a 5. The Scrivener is then going to attempt to cast Metamorphosis. And that is going to miscast. So he's going to take D3 mortal wounds. It's going to be 3 mortal wounds. He's got his 5 up disgustingly. And going to save one of those, so he takes 2. And with that, we can get into the movement phase. At the end of my movement phase, then, I'm going to use Orghotts and my 15 contagion points to summon in a block of 10 Plague Bearers here. So I'll have 1 contagion point remaining. During movement here, I'm acutely aware that I'm not really going to be able to shift any of the giants off of their objectives anytime soon. So I wanted to get my monsters into position to come into play, but I needed to protect them knowing that I'm not going to have the next turn and potentially going to have a double coming into me. So I used the contagion points that I've been building up to bring in some Plague Bearers, touched them onto an objective, so a nice interaction being able to get that to that objective that I wouldn't have been able to reach normally, and just built up some solid lines in front of my squishy bits. So I do have a little bit of, or a couple charges to make here, but I'm not going to have any meaningful shooting. So I'm going to attempt to charge first with the Plague Bearer unit. And they got double 1s, so they are currently not going anywhere. I will spend a command point for to reroll that charge. And with an 8, they will make it in. My Lord of Afflictions is then going to attempt to charge. And he's got a 6. I don't think so. That is not enough, and I am not able to reroll that. Needed a 7 there, so he is going to stay out. That's it for charges. You've got a monstrous action at the end of the charge phase.
The Gatebreaker will attempt to stomp on the Plague Bearers on a 2-up.
Got it.
Got it. For D3 mortal wounds. For 3 mortal wounds.
3 mortal wounds. Okay. They've got their 5-up. Going to save one of those. That's going to be 1 dead Plague Bearer. Start of the combat phase, I'm going to pile in first with the Plague Bearers. I've got 5 of them in with their 1-inch reach. One of those is the leader, so he gets an extra attack, so it's going to be 6 attacks. These are going to be on 4s and 3s. And 6s here are disease points. So that'll be 1 disease point and 5 hits. And that is going to be 2 at no rend.
That will put me at a 2 at 3+ save. I failed 1.
Just 1 damage.
Alright, the Gatebreaker will swing back. We'll first start with its 2 almighty stomps. These will be 3s to hit, rerolling 1s because not target a monster. I get to reroll 1. And fail both.
Ooh.
Next is the Death Grip, hitting on a 3. Wounding on a 2. This will go straight through at Ren -3 for D6 damage. For 5 damage.
Okay, 5 disgustingly resilient rolls. Gonna make 3 of those. That's gonna be 2 more damage.
And then the Gatebreaker is still at top profile, so it'll be 10 attacks with the flails. And because I'm within 7, I cannot issue commands. So this will be a hitting on 4s. For 4 hits. Wounding on 3s. The 4 Ren 3 at 3 damage apiece, so 12 damage total.
12 damage. Those are straight through, of course. So 12 5-ups. And I'm going to save 5 of those, and therefore take 7 more. At the end of the combat phase, then, the disease counters are going to tick up 1 on that Gatebreaker. I do need to make a Battle Shock roll with my Plague Bears. If I get a 1 here, 1 model will be returned to the unit. But they are on Bravery 10 normally. The Mega reduces that to Bravery 9. And I lost 5 models this turn, so looking for a 1. 6. So with the 5 that I lost, I'm actually going to lose 2 more. In the Battle Shock phase, then, we've got our disease rolls. I've got 2 rolls for the Gatebreaker because of the Cycle of Corruption. These are going to be on 3s. And I'm going to do none to him, and then 1 for the Man Crusher. On a 3, yep, 1 mortal wound. And that is going to be it for my turn. The only objective I managed to take is the unoccupied one. My summon got me on there for hold 1. My Savage Spearhead completed successfully, so I'm going to get a total of 3 victory points here. And that's going to bring us to the bottom of 2 Sons of Behemat.
Okay, so for my battle tactic, I'm going to select Conquer. And we're going to choose this objective here.
Makes sense.
Heroic action will be an extra command point on the Kraken-Eater. And I do not get it.
Okay, and I'll attempt an extra command point with my Lord of Afflictions, and I will get that one.
For spell casting, we'll start with the Kraken-Eater is going to attempt a Mystic Shield. 5. I get it on a 5, but I will use the Master of Magic reroll to see if I can get higher than that.
Sure.
And I do. I get a 7.
I will attempt to unbind that with the Great Unclean one. Need an 8. Got it with a 12.
Nice.
Get it out of here.
The Gatebreaker is going to attempt an Arcane Bolt. Needing a 5. I can get it on a 9.
Okay, and I'll attempt to unbind that with the Great Unclean one as well. And that one will go off.
That'll conclude my hero phase. At the start of the movement phase, I will unleash the Arcane Bolts onto the Plague Bears.
Sure.
For D3 mortal wounds. For 3 mortal wounds.
Okay. 3 5-ups. And that's going to kill 1 Plague Bear.
So in order to get my battle tactic, I moved the Man Crusher Gargant over to his objective to take it. The Gatebreaker's tied up in combat, so he didn't move. And I already have the middle objective, and I didn't necessarily want to go into the Plague Bears right now to open up for Orghotts and Great Unclean one to come in, so I will be just maintaining control of the objective.
At the end of the movement phase, disease points tick up 1 on the Gatebreaker.
We'll go to shooting. The Gatebreaker has a shooting attack into the Plague Bears. This will be hitting on a 3. Hits. Wounds on a 2. Wounds on a 2. Goes straight through for 4 damage.
4 damage. They've got their 5-ups. And I'm going to make 2 of those. It's going to kill 1.
The Kraken-Eater will then throw its hurl debris into the block of Plague Bears in the front. And I will spend a command point, because I have a lot of them, for all-out attack.
And I will spend a command point in turn for all-out defense.
This will be 3 attacks. I have 1 hit, wounding on a 3, 1 wound at rend -1.
And with the all-out defense, I'm looking for 6s. And it'll go through.
D3 damage for 1 damage.
5 up. They'll take it.
The Kraken-Eater will issue the Man Crusher to grab some rocks and chuck them. And we're going to chuck them at the Plague Bears I just shot at.
Sure.
These will be D3 attacks. 1 attack, hitting on a 4, and misses.
Okay.
Yeah, no charges this round. So at the end of the charge phase, I have a monstrous action. I will attempt to stomp the last Plague Bear on a 2. I get it for D3 more wounds, for 3 more wounds.
Okay, 3 5-ups. And I'm going to save one of those, and that's going to kill him.
That'll be the end of the turn.
So during the Battle Shock phase, we've got a couple of disease rolls here to make. They are on 3s for this round, so on the Gatebreaker, 2 of them. That is going to be 1 mortal wound, and on the Man Crusher, 1 mortal wound.
Go to scoring. I control all 3 objectives, so I'll have score 1, score 2, score more. And I'll have my battle tactic for Conquer for 5 points.
Okay. Brings the score to 11 to 8 going into round 3. Big priority roll here, obviously.
Yeah, yes it is.
And we tied at 1, which means I will have the option because I went first in the last turn.
Correct.
All right, going into round 3, I feel a little bit strange doing this, and against most armies I definitely wouldn't do this, but I am going to be taking the turn going into round 3, so it's going to be Nurgle top of 3. My Cycle of Corruption is going to advance, and it is now at Corrupted Regrowth. At the start of my hero phase, I'm going to get an extra contagion point for each Feculent Gnarlmaw in my army on the battlefield, so it's going to be an extra 2 contagion points for me during my hero phase.
And then because this is round 3 and I'm going second, I not only get to choose the vantage point, but I get to burn an objective if I would like. And I will go ahead and burn this objective here.
Makes sense.
And then for the vantage point, we're going to move it over to the corner objective where the Gatebreaker is.
Okay. For my battle tactic here, I don't have a lot of good choices. I'm going to take Broken Ranks on that lone Man Crusher target. My heroic action is going to be Finest Hour with my Lord of Afflictions.
My heroic action will be Heroic Recovery with the Gatebreaker.
Sure.
Needing a 7. Nope. I got a 10.
My units heal from Disgustingly Resilient. So D3 for the Spoil Tox. It's going to heal for 1. And then this unit of Plague Bearers will heal for this 1 damage. Into the hero phase proper then, I've got a couple of spells to cast. The Great Unclean one is going to attempt to cast Fleshy Abundance. Getting that on a 7.
The Gatebreaker will attempt to unbind. No.
And that's going to go on this unit of Plague Bearers right here. Going to attempt to cast Mystic Shield with the Great Unclean one. And fail that on a 4. Festus the Leech Lord is going to attempt his War Scroll spell, the Leech Lord's Curse. Casting value of 7. And I'm going to get that on an 8.
The Kraken-Eater is going to attempt to unbind that, needing a 9. Because he's a Master of Magic, he gets to re-roll that. And gets it on a 12.
Okay, so that is blocked. And then the Spoilpox Scrivener is going to attempt to cast Favored Poxes. And gets that on an 11. And the Scrivener is going to put that on the Kraken-Eater. So until the Scrivener moves or casts a spell or makes an attack, the Kraken-Eater is going to be -1 to hit, -1 to wound, and -1 to save rolls. And with that, we can get into the movement phase. For my contagion points, I get 1 extra for each Feculent Gnarlmaw, so that's going to be a total of 4 from the Feculent Gnarlmaws. I no longer have a unit wholly within my territory, so I'm not going to get the 3 points for that. But I do have units wholly within Aaron's territory, and he doesn't have any units inside his territory, so I'm going to get 4 points there. So with the 4 from the Gnarlmaws, that's going to be a total of 8, putting me at 9 points. And with that, we can get into movement.
will issue a redeploy from the Kraken-Eater to the Man-Crusher.
5. Big.
Big.
The redeploy means that my battle tactic is going to be a tall order, but this is really the round where I need to start getting some combat done, and haven't been particularly effective at that up until this point, so I'm hoping I can make a couple of these big charges, these big crucial charges, and so I'm going to start getting in and start doing what I can. Into the shooting phase, Orghotts has some shots that are just in range. He's got one shot. It's going to be hitting on 3s and wounding on 2s into the Man-Crusher.
The Man-Crusher will be issued all-out defense from the Kraken-Eater.
3s to hit. Hits, 2s to wound. Wounds, that's 1 at -1.
So I need a 5. Fails.
Okay, d6 damage. That is going to be 5 damage. Into the charge phase, I've got a few charges to make. The Putrid Blight Kings are going to attempt to charge. And they are going 10 inches, so they're going to make it in. The Lord of Afflictions is going to attempt to charge. And he's getting in on an 8. Because he has the Dolores Toxin, on a 2-up, he'll do d3 mortal wounds. Yes, d3 for 2. Orghotts has got a charge to make here. A little bit tricky around the terrain. 3 is not going to be enough. He's going to use his once per turn free command ability to re-roll that. And 9, I think, will do it. That's a big charge for battle tactics purposes. I will attempt to charge with my great Unclean one. Big numbers needed. 6 inches is not going to do that. And the Plague Bearers are going to attempt to charge that center unit. And 6 inches should get them in. At the end of the charge phase, I've got a couple of monstrous actions to make, and you do it as well, of course. Orghotts is going to roar at your Man-Crusher, and fails to do so on a 2.
The Man-Crusher will Titanic Duel.
Okay. And your...
Kragnos will Stomp on the Plague Bearers, and fails.
Okay. And the Gatebreaker?
The Gatebreaker will roar at the Putrid Blight Kings and gets it off.
Okay. At the start of the combat phase, the Lord of Afflictions is going to use his once per battle artifact, Rustfang, to give a permanent -1 to save rolls for the Gatebreaker. At the start of the combat phase, Scrivener is going to use call the count to increase the attacks of the Plaguebringers that are combat by 1. And the Lord of Afflictions is going to be my first activation in this combat. And I'm going to all-out attack with the Lord of Afflictions. So he's going to have 4 attacks with the Fester Spike. These are going to be on 2s and 3s. All of them hit 1 disease point there. And all of them wound. That's 4 at -1.
I'll be on a 6 then, because the permanent -1 and then another -1.
Correct.
Looking for 6s. I've passed 2 of them.
Very nice. D3 damage each on those. That is going to be 2 damage. And then 6 attacks with the Claws, Mouth Parts, and Sting on 2s and 3s. 5 hits. Ooh. And because of Finest Hour, that's going to be 5 wounds at no rend.
I'll be looking for 5s. I failed 3.
Got 1 damage each.
The Gatebreaker is going into the Putrid Blight Kings.
Okay.
We'll start with the Almighty Stomp. The 2 attacks hitting on 3s, rerolling 1s. Both hits. Wounding on a 3. Both wound at rend -2.
They've got 6 ups. And they're going to fail both of those.
D3 apiece for 4 damage.
Okay, 5 ups. Gonna make 2 of those 2 damage on one of the Blight Kings.
And we'll have the Death Grip be hitting on a 3 and wounding on a 2. This is one Ren minus 3.
Goes straight through.
D6 damage for 5 damage.
Okay, 5 ups. Gonna save 2 of those. Take 3 more.
And then now, because I am at 13 wounds taken, this will be 9 attacks with the Fork Crusher Flail. And because I can't issue any commands, you'd be hitting on 4s. 1, 2, 3, 4 hits. Wounding on 3s. Be 3 wounds at Ren minus 3.
Straight through.
That'd be 9 damage total.
Okay. 9 5-ups. And I am going to save 3 of those, so I will take a total of 6 more. I will activate next with the Plague Bearers. And so I'm just going to have 2 of them in. One is the leader. They do have an extra attack, so it's going to be a total of 5 attacks. On 4s and 3s. That is going to be 2 hits, no disease points, and 1 at no red.
Kragnos is base 2 up, and it passes.
Sure.
We'll go with Kragnos.
Okay.
Kragnos will issue all-out attack, so this will be 6 attacks with the big mace hitting on 2s, wounding on 2s. That'll be straight through for 20 damage.
20 damage. So 25 ups here. And take a total of 13. Because these are 3 wounds each currently, that's just going to kill 4.
Next will be Tuskbreaker. Will be 3 attacks, hitting on 2s. Failed 1. Wounding on 2s. Failed another 1, so you have 1 at Ren 2 for D3 damage.
Straight through.
For 3 damage.
Okay. 3 5-ups. And gonna make 1 of those. That is 1 more dead.
And then we'll have his Hooves of Rack and Ruin. This will be 6 attacks based off this bracket. Same profile, 2s and 2s. All hits. 2's the wound. 5 at Ren 1.
Okay. Straight through.
It'd be 2 damage each, so 10 damage.
Okay, 10 5-ups. And I'm going to save 1 of those. 9 more damage, 3 more dead Plague Bearers. I'm next going to activate with Orghotts, and he's going to put all of his attacks into your Man Crusher. So he's got 7 attacks with the Rod Axes. These are going to be 3s and 3s. 2 disease points. And 4 at -1.
It'll be 4 6-ups. Failed each one of them.
2 damage each.
And the Man Crusher falls. But, Timber! This model is, the unit is slain. Before removing it from the battlefield, the players must roll off. You pick a point within 3, or point 3 away, the winner.
I got a 4. I will pick a point out into the middle of nowhere because it can't affect your Gargants. And you've got no further activations currently, so I will attack with the Blight Kings. They've got 10 attacks, and these are going to be on 3s and 3s. Into the Gatebreaker. No disease points there. 3's wound. That will be 3 at -1.
5-up save goes to a 6. I failed all 3.
1 damage each. End of the combat phase here. Disease points are going to tick up on everything that's in combat. In the Battle Shock phase, we can do some disease rolls. On the Gatebreaker, looking for 4-ups, he's got 3. And he's going to take 1 mortal wound. Kragnos is not going to take any. And then for Battle Shock, I'm going to spend a command point to auto pass with the Plague Bringers. And I'm going to press my luck here with the Blood Kings. I lost 2 this turn. And with the -1 bravery, they're still going to be fine. So I wasn't able to take an objective. Bringing the Plague Bringers in, I did tie up Kragnos into combat, which is a good thing. But of course, they just kind of got obliterated. But I did manage to complete a battle tactic, and I'll get an extra point because I completed it with a monster. I'll also get an extra point because I killed a monster. So that's going to be a total of 4 victory points for me. And we will have bottom of 3 Sons of Behemat.
Okay, for my battle tactic, I'm going to select Broken Ranks on the unit of Plague Bearers. And then for my heroic action, I will go for a command point on Kragnos. And I do not get it.
For my heroic action, I'll attempt to get a command point on my Lord of Afflictions. And I get it.
We'll go to spellcasting, and we'll start with the Gatebreaker. The Gatebreaker is going to attempt a Mystic Shield. And gets it on a 5.
And I'll attempt to unbind that with the Great Unclean one. Blocked it with a 10.
The Kraken-Eater is going to attempt to cast the Soulscream Bridge, needing a 6. Because I'm a Master of Magic, I will attempt to re-roll that. With a 6.
Off on a 6, Great Unclean one. It's going to block that with a 7.
And that will be the end of the hero phase. On to movement. So for my movement phase, I decided to keep the Gatebreaker and Kragnos in combat, and opted to move the Kraken-Eater up to see if I can try to take care of that Spoilpox Scrivener and possibly be able to tie up the Great Unclean one into battle so I can split his forces up so they can't necessarily gang up on one of my big guys. The Gatebreaker will use his shooting attack on the Putrid Blight Kings. I'll be hitting on a 3. I'm wounding on a 2. And Ren -3, 4 damage.
Okay, straight through 4 damage, 5 ups. Gonna save one of those, that's 3 more damage.
Then the Kraken-Eater is going to do its hurl debris at the Scrivener. 3 attacks hitting on 4s. We get 2 hits, wounding on 3s. 2 wounds at Ren -1.
2 at -1 on the Scrivener. He's got a 6 up. Gonna make one of those.
D3 damage for 2 damage.
5 ups. And he will take 2.
I will go to charges. We'll attempt to charge with the Kraken-Eater, and because the Kraken-Eater is wholly within 12 of Kragnos, you get to roll 3d6 and see what happens. 5. We'll spend a command point and we'll re-roll that charge for a 13. Crushing charge. You get a roll for every enemy unit within an inch after a charge. On a 2-up, they take D3 mortal wounds if it's a monster, D6 mortal wounds if it's not a monster on a 2+. So we'll start with the Great Unclean one. On a 2+, we'll take D3 mortal wounds. Take 2 mortals.
Okay, 2 5 ups. 6 is up here. Kickback disease. So I'll just take 2 on the Great Unclean one.
And then a 2-up on the Scrivener. I get it for D6 mortal wounds for 3 mortal wounds.
Okay, 3 5 ups. Gonna block 2 of those and take 1.
I'll go to monstrous actions. I'll take all 3 of mine first. The Kraken-Eater will attempt to stomp on the Scrivener.
Sure.
On a 2+. Yes, for D3 mortal wounds. For 2 mortal wounds.
2 5 ups. Made 1, failed 1. That's gonna be the Scrivener death.
Because the Spoilpox Scrivener had an artifact, part of my Taker Tribe is whenever I kill a hero with an artifact, I get to roll for a triumph that I can use during the game. Alright, so let's see which one I get. On a 6 is Indomitable, is no battle shock. That'll be extremely useful for the rest of the game. And then the Gatebreaker will roar at the Lord of Afflictions.
Sure.
On a 3, does get it.
Got him.
And then Kragnos doesn't. I've already done Stomp and I've already done Roar, so Kragnos does not have one.
Okay. The Great Unclean one is going to use his Mountain of Loathsome Flesh, so on a 2-up, he'll do 4 mortal wounds. Yep, 4 mortal wounds to the Kraken-Eater.
We'll go to the combat phase, and we'll start with the Kraken-Eater on the Great Unclean one. I am going to use all-out attack because the Scrivener's dead. It's Curse of Poxes. I no longer have the penalty to hit, wound, and save. And because I was less points, I'm going to spend my Triumph for +1 to wound.
Okay. I'll be using all-out defense here.
We'll start with the Almighty Stomp. These will be hitting on 2s. And wounding on 2s. This is Rend -2.
Okay. With the all-out defense, these are going to be 5-ups. Maybe.
Then we'll have a Death Grip. We'll be hitting on a 2. Rerolling 1s because you are a monster. Wounding on a 1. Which fails. And then we'll have 8 attacks with the Shipwrecker Club, which will be 2s and 2s. 5 at Rend 2.
5 at Rend 2. These are going to be on 5s. Saved 2 of those.
So it'll be 2 damage each.
Total of 6 damage. 5-ups. 6s are going to kick back disease points. So that is going to be 2 disease points back and a total of 4 damage taken. Going to activate then with the Lord of Afflictions and put his attack into the Gatebreaker. He's got 4 attacks with the Fester Spike. 3s and 3s. That is going to be 1 disease point and 4 hits. And 3 at -1.
So I will need 6s. Save 2 of them.
Okay, D3 damage. Just 1. And then the Claw, Mouthparts, and Stings, 3s and 3s. 2 more disease points. And 2 at no rend.
5s. Failed both.
1 damage each. And your activation.
We'll go with Kragnos into the Plague Bearers.
If you're okay with it, I'll just scoop the
Sure,
scoop.
sure, that's fine.
If you want to pile in, go ahead, but they are certainly going to be dead.
The Kragnos is fine where he is.
Okay.
And that will complete my battle tactic.
Sure. I will then activate with the Putrid Blight King over here. He's got 5 attacks, 3s and 3s. It's going to be 2 disease points and 4 hits. And 4 wounds at -1.
I need 6s. I failed 2 of them.
1 damage each.
Those disease points are starting to pile up on the Gatebreaker.
Your activation?
We'll go with the Gatebreaker. We'll put for the Gatebreaker, we'll put the Almighty Stomps and Death Grip into the Lord of Afflictions, and we'll put the rest of all the flail attacks into the Putrid Blight King.
Okay.
We'll start with the Lord of Afflictions. So it'll be 2 attacks hitting on 3s, re-rolling 1s because you are not a monster. I got 1 hit, wounding on a 3. 1 wound at Rend -2.
Okay, 5 up. And made it.
Alright. Then the Death Grip will be hitting on a 3. Wounding on a 2. 1 at Rend -3.
Okay, 6 up. Nope.
D6 damage. for 5 damage.
Okay, 5 ups. And made one of those going to take 4.
And then because I am at 22 wounds, I am down to 7 flail attacks. I'll be hitting on 4s. That is 3 hits. Wounding on 3s. 2 at round 3 for 6 damage total.
6 damage total on this Lone Blight King. These are going to be 5 ups. And going to save 3 of those and take 3. And that is exactly what was needed. I just have the Great Unclean one to activate then. He's not quite bracketed yet. He's going to have 4 attacks with his Bile Sword. These are going to be 4s and 3s. That is going to be 1 disease point. And 1 wound at -2.
Put me on a 6. And I failed.
4 damage. And the Plague Flail is going to be 5 attacks, 3s and 3s. 1 more disease point, and 3 hits. And 3 wounds at -1.
Need 5s. Failed them all.
3 damage each on those, total of 9. And then 15 attacks with the host of Nurglings. These are going to be on 5s and 5s. That is going to be 3 disease points. Only 4 hits. And that will be no wounds. At the end of the combat phase, then, the units that are in combat would tick up 1 disease point, but they're both at 7, so they are capped.
And go into Battle Shock. We have no Battle Shock.
Sure.
We'll go ahead and roll for disease points.
So we've got 7 dice on 4s into the Gatebreaker. And that is going to be a total of 4 mortal wounds. And then because of the Wither Stave artifact from the Great Unclean one, it's going to be on 3s into the Kraken-Eater. So 7 dice, looking for 3s. And we will have 6 mortal wounds there. And into Kragnos, 2 dice, 1 mortal wound into Kragnos.
Kragnos with his new shield, the shield in violet, will attempt to save that on a 6. And does not. Kragnos does 1. Yeah, I'm starting to regret going into the Great Unclean one there.
But you can slap.
But I really wanted to get rid of that -1 to hit, wound, and save. Just I wanted to give it a try, and it worked, but I definitely paid for it.
For sure.
But at the end of the turn, I control I control both objectives for 2 points. I control more for a 3rd. I completed my battle tactic for another 2, and I completed with a monster for another 1, so a total of 6.
And then we're going to have a big priority roll into round 4. The score sits at 17-12, so Nurgle is way behind here. And with 1s, I retain the choice.
The vantage point for this battle round is going to be the center objective.
All right, I am going to take the turn here. I'm backed into a corner. Don't feel like I have a lot of choice here. So my battle tactic for the turn is going to be Slay the Warlord on your Kraken-Eater. My heroic action here is going to be Finest Hour with my Great Unclean one.
My heroic action will be Finest Hour on the Gatebreaker.
Sure. My Lord of Afflictions is going to heal 1 wound. The Great Unclean one is going to heal D3, and he'll get 1 back. I control 2 Feculent Gnarlmaws. That's going to give me 2 contagion points. Gut Rot is still holding strong in the enemy territory, so he's going to be worth 4 back there. It's going to be a total of 6 contagion points, bringing me to 15. For my spellcasting, the Great Unclean one is going to attempt to cast Mystic Shield, and that's going off on a 7.
The Gatebreaker will attempt to unbind. It does not.
Mystic Shield is going to go on the Great Unclean one. Festus is going to attempt the Leech Lord's Curse.
I have to take a picture of that. I've never seen that before.
We've got a die cocked on the corner. And that's going to go off on a 10.
You got it.
And the Leech Lord's Curse, which is a permanent -1 to save for the rest of the game, is going to go on to the Kraken-Eater. And for my last spell, the Great Unclean One is going to attempt to cast Fleshy Abundance. And that's going off on an 8.
Try to counter that with the Kraken-Eater. I get it on a 9.
Okay. Into the movement phase then. My movement phase is just all about getting Orghotts as close as I can for his charge and making sure that the rest of things are locked up into combat. I'm really asking a lot out of the Lord of Afflictions to try to take down the Gatebreaker with its 9 wounds remaining. But if I'm able to, it could be potentially game-changing, and that's ultimately what I'm going for here, is something to change the course of this game. Into my shooting phase, I'm going to shoot first with the Great Unclean One into the Kraken-Eater. D6 shots for 1 shot. This is going to be 3s and 2s. Hits with a disease point and fails to wound. Orghotts then has 1 shot going into the same target. This is going to be 3s and 2s.
I will all-out defense on the Kraken-Eater.
Okay. 1 attack at 3s and 2s then. Hits and wounds at -1.
The 5s. And failed.
D6 damage. 6 damage.
Very nice.
Made up for the 1 attack with the Great Unclean One. It's balanced out there.
Yes.
Couple of charges to make then. Orghotts is going to attempt his charge first on a 6-inch charge. So the 6-inch actually fails. Orghotts is going to use free once per turn command ability to reroll that, and going to get in on a 9. Going to attempt to charge in with the Plague Bearers as well. And with a 4, I've got the option to go in. I will go in. For monsters' actions, Orghotts is going to attempt a Titanic Duel on the Kraken-Eater. The Great Unclean One is going to use the Mountain of Loathsome Flesh ability on 2-up. That'll be 4 mortal wounds.
2 remaining on the Kraken-Eater.
And it's your monstrous action.
The Gatebreaker is going to attempt to roar at the Lord of Afflictions.
Sure.
On a 3, I get it.
Okay.
The Kraken-Eater's monstrous action will be Titanic Duel on Orghotts.
Sure. Into combat phase then, I'm going to activate first with the Lord of Afflictions. 9 wounds left for the Gatebreaker, but he does have that permanent -1 to save, and he is finest houred. So 4 attacks with the Fester Spike on 3s and 3s. Just 1 hit. And no wounds. And then 6 attacks with Claws, Mouth Parts, and Stings, 3s and 3s. Gonna get 2 disease points. And 4 at no rend.
The -1 from the artifact, +1 because of finest hour, will bring me up 4. So. And I saved 3 of them.
1 damage. Your activation.
The Kraken-Eater will pile in and will put all of its attacks into Orghotts. But before I get to the attacks, I get to try to put the Plague Bearers into my net. The Kraken-Eater will then use its Stuff 'em in me net ability on the Plague Bearers. So after this model piles in, I can pick up to D3 enemy models within 3 inches. So we'll see how many I get. I get 2 Plague Bearers within 3. We'll just select the 2 that are as close. And I need to roll double the wounds characteristics. So they're 2 wounds apiece.
Correct.
So I need 4s on the first one close. Yes. The second one, yes. Both Plague Bearers are put in my net. And then all of the attacks will go into Orghotts. We'll start with the...
I'll be using all-out defense here.
Yes. We'll start with the Almighty Stomp. We'll be hitting on 2s. Wounding on 3s. 2 at rend -2.
2 at rend -2. With the all-out defense, these are going to be 4s. And I will fail both of those.
D3 apiece for 5.
Because of the Cycle of Corruption, I've got a 4-up ward, and 6s are going to kick back mortals. So there's going to be 2 mortal wounds back, and I'm going to suffer 2.
Okay, so that is enough to kill the Kraken-Eater on the return mortals.
Okay, his
all my other
attacks will
attacks
finish.
will still go through. We'll do the Death Grip, hitting on a 2, rerolling 1s because you are a monster. Hits, wounding on a 2. It wounds at Ren -3.
Ren -3. These are going to be 5-ups.
1 at Ren -3.
Failed it.
D6 damage for 6 damage.
And these are going to be 4-up wards. Gonna take 2 of those. That would be 1 mortal wound back. Not that it matters.
And then the Shipwrecker Club will have 5 attacks. Be hitting on 2s. All hits. Wounding on 3s. 3 wounds at Ren -2.
3 wounds at -2. These are going to be 4-ups. And I will fail 2 of those.
Be 4 damage total.
Okay. 4 4-ups. And I'll pass all those.
Very nice. And then I get to timber over. We get to roll off and see where he lands. 6.
You get the choice.
All right, so I have to pick a point that is 5 inches away from the model. So we'll point to over here. It'd be enough to get Orghotts and the Plague Bearers in.
Sure.
The Plague Bearers would be, we'll take 2 mortal wounds.
Okay, 5-ups. That'll take them.
Then Orghotts will take 2 mortal wounds as well.
Okay, 4-ups for Orghotts. He's good.
Okay.
Maybe at great peril to myself, I'm going to activate Orghotts next. And he's going to pile in to Kragnos and make his attacks. Everything going into Kragnos.
Kragnos will spend a command point for all-out defense on Kragnos.
Sure. So, Orghotts, 7 attacks with the rod axes on 3s and 3s. That is going to be 3 hits and 2 wounds at -1.
+1, so this will be even, so 2 ups. And failed 1.
2 damage.
6 upwards. Take them both.
And then 5 monstrous claws, 3s and 2s. No disease points there. 2 hits, 1 wound at -2.
Be on 3s. And I failed.
And that one is 3 damage.
6 ups. Failed them all. Kragnos is up to 6 wounds taken.
Okay. Your activation.
We'll go with the Gatebreaker. Everything into the Lord of Afflictions. We'll do 2 attacks with the Almighty Stomp. Be hitting on 3s, rerolling 1s. Both hits. Because I'm Finest Hour, this will be wounding on 2s. 2 at Ren -2.
2 at -2 on the Lord of Afflictions. It's going to be 5-ups. And failed both of those.
D3 piece. 5 damage.
5 4-ups. Going to make 3 of those and take 2.
Then we'll have the Death Grip will be hitting on a 3. And wounding on a 2. Is 1 at Ren -3.
1 at -3. Failed that.
D6. 2 damage.
2 damage, 2 4-ups. Made 1 of those and took 1.
And then, since I'm at 27 wounds taken, this will be 6 attacks with the Fort Crusher Flail. Hitting on 4s. With 4 hits this time. Wounding on 2s. It's the Finest Hour. Be 2 at Ren -3.
2 at -3 are going to be 6-ups. Failed those.
6 damage.
6 damage, 6 4-ups. And going to take 3 of those. That is going to kill him. Kragnos.
You can activate the Plague Bearers to pile in.
I'll
if you'd like
decline.
to do that. Okay. We'll go with Kragnos. And Kragnos is not bracketed. So we'll put everything in the Orghotts.
Okay. Still all out defense.
Yes. We'll start off with the Dread Mace at 6 attacks, hitting on 3s. 3 hits, wounding on 2s. 2 wounds at Ren -3.
2 at -3 with the all out defense are going to be 5s. And made both of them.
Very nice. We'll have 3 attacks with the Tuskbreaker, hitting on 3s. Only one hit. And no wound. And then 6 hooves of rack and ruin. Be hitting on 3s. 3 hits. Wounding on 2s. This will be 2 at rend 1.
2 at rend 1 are going to be 3-ups, and I will pass 1 and fail 1.
2 damage.
2 damage. Looking for 4s, and I'll fail both of those. Orghotts will take 2. Disease points, then the Gatekeeper has 4. Gatebreaker, that is going to be 4 mortal wounds. And Kragnos has 1. He's going to take none. So overall, not a very successful turn. I killed the Kraken-Eater, but that was kind of a given. I would have really liked to at least threaten to kill the Gatebreaker and really fluffed it with the Lord of Afflictions. In hindsight, probably should have retreated out, but I don't have anything over there to really support that combat. So it was just a kind of a losing proposition there. Orghotts did well with his all-out defense and got into a couple combats, so that definitely feels good. And the Great Unclean one is still just a chonk, so happy about that. But ultimately, even though it feels like I'm winning this fight, not holding any objectives continues to hurt. So I completed my battle tactic with a monster, so that's going to be a total of 3 points.
And slayed a monster.
And slayed a monster, total of 4 points. And it is bottom of round 4, Sons of Behemat.
For my battle tactic this round, I'm going to choose aggressive expansion for the 2 objectives on the table. And for my heroic action, I will attempt heroic recovery on the Gatebreaker.
Sure.
And I do get it. He will heal for 2. We'll remove the 1 contagion point and we'll heal 1.
And for my heroic action, I will Finest Hour with Orghotts.
Gatebreaker will attempt to cast Mystic Shield.
Sure.
Gets it on a 10.
Attempt to unbind with the Great Unclean one. It goes off.
He is mystically shielded himself. And that's the rest of the hero phase. I'll go to movement. My movement phase was pretty simple. Because he's on his 4-up ward and Finest Hour, I decided to retreat Kragnos to be away from Orghotts, but still maintain the objective, and move the Gatebreaker back a little bit because he's starting to hurt, and just try to protect him as much as I can. My shooting, because I am bracketed so much, everything's out of range. I have no charges. We'll do disease points on the 1 disease point on Kragnos.
On a 4-up, he will take 1 mortal wound.
See if he wards it. He does. For victory points, I control both objectives since Kragnos still counts as 30. So it's 1, 2, and more, and then I completed my battle tactic of aggressive expansion for 5 victory points.
And that'll take us into round 5. We've got a priority roll. And my 2 beats your 1, but I am currently behind by 6 points. I don't believe that I can actually claw my way back here, but I will give it a try. My battle tactic will be bring it down, and I will select Kragnos. My cycle of corruption will go to Fecund Vigor. All units are being treated as being within 14 inches of a locus of fecundity.
Kragnos will give it his Finest Hour.
Orghotts is going to heal for D3. He's going to get 2 back, and the Great Unclean one is going to heal for D3 and get 2 back as well. I get a total of 6 contagion points, 2 for the trees and 4 for Gut Rot Spume back there. It's going to put me to 21. For hero phase, Great Unclean one is going to attempt to cast Mystic Shield, and going to get that on a 9.
Yeah, Gatebreaker will attempt to unbind this. Okay, I did not unbind it.
Okay, Mystic Shield is going to go on to Orghotts. Festus is going to attempt to cast Plague Squall, and that's going off on a 10, so he gets 7 dice, and 6s will allow him to put a disease point on a unit. He's got 1 6, he's going to put that on your Gatebreaker. Great Unclean one is then going to attempt Arcane Bolt, and gonna get that on a 6. With that, we can get into movement.
I will use a command point to redeploy Kragnos. We'll go 4.
End of my movement phase, I'm then going to summon in a unit of 10 Plague Bearers. So, after movement here, just shifted everything over, summoned in some Plague Bearers, gonna try to clear the field. If I don't clear the field this turn, I've just lost. So the goal here is to kill everything. But if I kill everything, I do have a path to victory, albeit a slim one. Into shooting, Orghotts has his 1 shot, and he's going to put that into Kragnos. And that's just going to miss. Into charges, Orghotts is going to attempt his charge. Going to get that on a 6. The Great Unclean one is going to attempt a very long charge. Going to fail that on an 8. I'll spend a command point to re-roll that. So the Great Unclean one need a 10, and going to fail that on a 7. Then the Plague Bearers are going to attempt to get in, and they are going to fail that on an 8. And with that, I will very comfortably concede. Good game, Aaron.
Good game.
I knew that the Nurgle output was just not going to be there to get rid of the Gargants, and that's what proved to be the case. I just not enough damage to move them off the objectives, and so I was not holding points at any point during the game.
And one mistake, I know I ended up winning the game, but one thing that I'm also learning about is trying to make better plays as I go, and going to try to kill the Scrivener while he was next to the Great Unclean was probably something I should not have done, because I took 2/3 of my health gone from that attack.
The Great Unclean one is slow, but when you get into him, he definitely gets it done. My inability early on to get into combat with the things I really want to be into combat with definitely hurt me. My priority rolls were great, but it's a slow army. And I think I win the long fight here. That's what we're seeing, is that I win the long fight, but that doesn't really get me there.
No, I was just able to accumulate enough points to establish a lead and then be able to survive long enough to outlast you.
Yeah, absolutely. How do you feel about the army with the Soulscream bridge and with Kragnos in it?
Well, you didn't let me get the bridge off, so no, I think it's fine. It's the bridge is really good as a backup plan in a scenario like this, where especially with Gargants, you don't have a whole lot of models on the board, and especially now with Amulet of Destiny now being a 6-up board instead of a 5, you have to be a little bit more careful with how you play. And just having the maneuverability of the bridge to either get something out of a sticky situation or take advantage of an opening that your opponent gives, I think actually gives the army quite a bit of flexibility, especially with Kragnos now.
Yeah, I think the Kragnos combo there is really what makes it worthwhile, because you can then use it to pull something out of combat in one place and guarantee that it's getting into combat somewhere else.
Yes.
It gives you the threat of throwing 35 wounds into somebody's backfield. It opens up a lot of options that you wouldn't otherwise have with an army like that. And I think it just makes it a more interesting army to play and to play against. So I definitely like the tech. Now, against Magic Doms, it's going to feel a little bit like some wasted points. But you've got the bodies to contest objectives and hold out against those armies in a lot of cases. So it's not necessarily a bad pick, because it strengthens some of your worst matchups.
And that's my thought too. And Kragnos now being able to count as so many models on objectives brings more of a punch than you would normally get with Megas, because in general, Mega Gargants don't hit that hard. They just don't. They're just massive wounds on objectives. The Gatebreaker can hit if you build Breaker Tribe, because you can have an army-wide +1 to hit. But in something like this, where I really want to be able to get magic in, and hold objectives with so little models, Taker Tribe with the Master of Magic and having Arcane Tomes and Glow Lanterns around is quite nice. It just gives me added flexibility in an army that is typically one-dimensional.
And we saw what Kragnos did. I threw 10 Plague Bears into him, and yeah, it's 10 models in a battle line unit, but 10 Plague Bears with Fleshy Abundance, so you're really dealing with 30 wounds in the unit on a 5-up ward. And he killed them down to 2, I believe, in one activation. So the damage is definitely there. That will wipe most units in the game.
Yes, and I think that having the added benefit of Kragnos to potentially fling a Gatebreaker or something into a front line on turn 1 is definitely possible, especially with some of the combinations that you can do in, say, Stomper Tribe, where the Mantle of the Destroyer not only gives your Mega Gargant's Bravery 10, which is good for other abilities that deal with Bravery, but also Heroic Recovery, but it also gives the ability for all your Gargants to reroll charge rolls within 12, or wholly within 12. So you combine that with Kragnos, so you can have almost army-wide 3d6 charge re-rolling.
Right. It just changes the way the army plays. It gives you some punch instead of just being a reactive punching bag most of the time. So congratulations on the win here in the first round of our Winter Rubicon tournament. We'll see you in the next round, and we'll see through the other games in the first round who you'll be facing. But I wish you luck the rest of the way. And thank you, everybody, for watching. Check out our Discord. It is linked in the video description. Please, if you liked the video, leave a comment. Let us know what we could have done differently, what we could have done better. And we love to get that feedback. And if you haven't, please subscribe. It lets us know more than anything else that you support the channel and that you want us to keep creating the content, which we are enjoying doing. So thank you, everybody who's stuck around this long.
Thanks for having me. I'm glad that I'd be able to participate in this, and thank you for the game, Nick. And I look forward to the next round of the Winter Rubicon.
We'll be happy to have you back. Thanks, Aaron. Thanks, everybody, for watching.